Colorado Congressman Ken Buck became a highlight of the Robert Mueller hearing before the House Judiciary Committee this week. When Buck asked if Mueller believed he could charge the president with the crime after he left office, Mueller answered yes, and confirmed it after Buck's second question. David, it seems that the actual result of the hearings are going to be mixed at best. People who already disagreed with President Trump saw it as confirmation. People who agree with President Trump saw it as terrible for Robert Mueller. Does this highlight live on for Ken Buck, or does it go away quickly?
I don't think it lives on. It's a confirmation of what the state of the law at the Department of Justice has been for a long time. The question was, you could charge the President of the United States with obstruction of justice after he left office. And Mueller says yes. That is, legally speaking, the correct answer. At the Department of Justice, there's something called the Office of Legal Counsel, which is a very elite unit and somewhat insulated from the partisan vicissitudes of the department as a whole. And OLC formal opinions are binding on the entire Department of Justice, including Robert Mueller, who was in his role was part of the Department of Justice. Since the Nixon administration, the OLC has had the opinion that you cannot indict a sitting president, partly because of the separation of powers. But of course, after Trump left, he wouldn't be a sitting president anymore, and so of course he could be indicted. That's the correct legal thing to say. This got spun as Mueller saying, we have enough evidence that I personally would decide to bring a case, if I had the opportunity. He testified before House Judiciary in the morning and House Intelligence in the afternoon, and he began his House Intelligence testimony by saying, as we say in the report, and as I said in the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime. Obviously, there is, in the Mueller report, there is evidence that some people would say is stuff that people would say is evidence of a crime. So sure, could a prosecutor decide to do it? Yes. Did Mueller say that he had decided it should be done? No.
Ian, despite a Colorado congressman making a pretty big highlight of the hearings, is there going to be any local impact from the Mueller hearings?
Not only a Colorado congressman, but also the chairman of the state party. This is the problem when you don't have very much talent left on the bench, is you have people doing multiple jobs, which end up affecting each other politically, right? So this gaffe that Buck makes during this hearing, whether you like it or not, it dominated the headlines coming out of this as a result. And, the truth is, later on in this hearing, Mueller was asked two very important questions that hadn't gotten onto the record yet. The first one by Adam Schiff, the first one, Congressman from California. The first one was, did the Trump campaign invite and welcome interference and participation by the Russians to help him get elected? Mueller said yes. Did they lie and try and cover it up? He said yes. Now you have everything you need to bring an obstruction case. I think Dave's right. The law, or the rule rather, on the book says you cannot indict a sitting president. Mueller confirmed that twice to Ken Buck. All those things in combination, however, give a prosecutor, I think, all they need to bring a charge once Trump is out of office. The question is, will there be political will to do so? Will there be an airtight enough legal case to do so? And I think that's up to future prosecutors and depends on what happens in the 2020 election, quite frankly.
Natasha, in a previous political era, not that long ago, something as dramatic as congressional hearings and all these different kind of reports and comments from local congressmen would seem to have some staying power. I am not convinced that staying power, the expiration date on anger or shock or any sort of reaction from something federally seems to be dramatically short right now. Maybe I'm being cynical. What do you think?
There's definitely a new normal for everyone in sort of the consumption of this type of news. But I think within that, too, there's this idea now that these congressional hearings should be must-see TV, that there needs to be the soundbite, that the person who's testifying is supposed to be this straight out of central casting, perfect witness who says everything with the inflection and tone that they want. We didn't get that this week because that's not typically how these hearings go. And particularly in this case, he was being very careful about saying what he could and couldn't say and doing it in a lawyerly way. And anyone who's read a deposition, anyone who sat in a court hearing, anyone who sat on a jury knows how long it takes to set up the framework for those sort of questions to get to real answers. And also probably knew that we weren't going to get a lot of those opinion question answers from him this week. So to me, I have some concerns about the media coverage because there were a lot of 7 takeaways, 5 takeaways, 10 takeaways. Here's a short clip. We're going to watch 10 seconds of hours of congressional hearings and make judgments about it. And I think we're missing the point that sometimes the impact, the grandeur of the moment, the importance of the moment is best spent by taking some time and really thinking about it. And we just aren't as interested in that, it seems, right now.
Patty, did anything really change after the Mueller hearings this week?
Well, I would hope the one thing that changed is that people remember the Russians really did interfere, and we have an election coming up again, and there's no evidence that we have the controls in place that won't allow the Russians to interfere again. Otherwise, to use another inappropriate term, it's like the blind man and the elephant. Anyone who watched this, everyone came away with a different impression. Who was the biggest blowhard? I have to say Mueller really wasn't a blowhard because he didn't say enough to be a blowhard. He was very circumspect in what he said, but all the posturing with the people and their questions, that's the takeaway depending on what framework you're watching from, what party you're watching from, what geography you're watching from. And people will remember what Ken Buck said in this state.